teaching and learning possible, all the time, everywhere. Diwa educational resources are designed to make teaching and learning happen in the classroom, at home, or anywhere. Make teaching and learning more fun and engaging with the new Diwa textbooks. Fully aligned with the K-12 curriculum and the Department of Education's most essential learning competencies, Diwa textbooks provide complete and appropriate content that prepares students for higher education or employment. Now, with its new interactive digital format, Diwa textbooks can be broken down into digestible, easy-to-browse modules that include additional visual elements and up to 10 gamified quizzes per module, reimagining the teaching and learning experience for distance education. Provide students with additional knowledge that are interactive, thematic, and interesting with Diwa Supplemental Educational Magazines or SEMs. SEMs are filled with articles and activities and come with a teacher's guide and editorial content that teachers can use as tools in designing effective learning experiences for students in the classroom. SEMs also contain interactive digital activities and can be used as an additional educational resource and reference material to augment students' learning sessions at home. Make meaningful learning experiences beyond the classroom with the power of Genio e-learning. With the ready-made interactive digital resources and add-on contents found inside Genio e-learning, teachers can save time in preparing materials for classroom lectures and discussions. Teachers can also maximize the collaboration tools as well as lesson and test authoring tools available in Genio e-learning so that students can learn safely at home, synchronously or asynchronously. Redefine student learning with Checkbox, our gamified assessment portal for grade school and junior high school students. Checkbox contains gamified drills that can be used in conducting quizzes and seat works, providing teachers and students with a blended learning environment. Using the tools and features in Checkbox, teachers can create tailored activities as well as monitor learners' performance in real time, helping students develop mastery in 5 major subject areas, anytime, anywhere, and on any device. With Diwa's educational resources, teachers continue to be frontliners in nation building. Students become active contributors to the country's progress. And schools create a teaching and learning environment that defies any boundaries. Together, we give education the attention it deserves all the time, everywhere. We are Diwa. We move the nation forward through education.
With Cleves Publishing Incorporated, we assure you as our partners to be there throughout the journey. We are with you in every step of the way. Technology is continuously evolving, and Cleves is riding with it. From print to digital, Cleves got you covered with the products that we offer. Spearheading Cleves products are the Clevelets, an e-learning portal for teachers only, and the Leveraging Education, Augmenting the Future, or LEAF, for student-teacher access. For teachers, administrators, and school owners, we have the Cleves Shares. It is perfect for you in maneuvering fast-paced demands of the education field as we collaborate in creating a balanced amalgam of theories, pedagogies, and practices inside and outside of the realm of the learning environments. Reimagine, reinforce, recognize, to make quality education through a variety of lectures, trainings, and webinars.
in aid of instruction, classroom management, and institution management. These offerings are perfect responses.
In connection to Cleves Shares, to provide service beyond sales, Cleves also has the Cleves.R.E.S.S for its partner mission schools in providing them with capacity building focused branding or rebranding the institution inside and out. It also practices reimagining various school scenarios and responses to the needs of the time, reinforcing school climate and culture through different webinars conducted among institution partners and in recognizing the value of each stakeholder in the success of value-laden instruction delivery. Another product of Cleves is the Cleves Assist. This offering features a 24/7 hotline for technical assistance in the use and maintenance of the Clevelets and Leaf. Almost everyone in the academe can benefit from this, from the teachers, admins, and school owners to the students and parents. Cleves Assists aims to provide an assistance response team to address immediate technical concerns while ensuring the users the full utilization of the Clevelets and Leaf. It also offers visits with partners to address offline concerns when needed.
We ensure quality service delivered through this hotline assistance to our partners, always.
And lastly, Cleves Thinks. Together with the partners, we provide them with external consultations for present and future research agenda, accreditation certification, and imaging one. Cleves thinks that with a client in full swing, it is redirecting the winds within their institutions. Cleves Thinks is for teachers, administrators, school owners, students, parents, and even extended service communities and collaborative partner agencies. Through innovative designs, proactive responses, and reconfigured goals, established institutions are on the verge of the fourth going to the fifth industrial revolution. Strong definitive vision is what's needed in remaining relevant and competent in this world. And this is what Cleves is all about.
Through the years, we have been your partner in innovative teaching and effective learning. Our teaching and learning resources and the professional development programs for teachers and school leaders speak of the alaga that you deserve as our collaborative partners. Now more than ever, we commit to Alagang Phoenix SIBS, the cornerstone of our mission in education. We vow to guide and support you in navigating uncertain paths in education today by providing holistic solutions that support instructional resiliency. With our MELCS compliant print and digital resources and programs, we help you future-proof quality instruction. Distance learning must-haves for students, teachers, and learning coaches. Designed for meaningful home-based learning experiences. Student-friendly activities that form self-directed learners. Replete with learning tasks that serve various instructional purposes. For advanced learners, and for those who need more instructional support. My Distance Learning Buddy Series. A modular textbook series for the 21st century learner in the new normal. 6 subjects, 1 learning package. MELC compliant. Easy to do learning tasks. Rich assessments that help inform learning and teaching. Phoenix.R.E.S.S. Beefing up our holistic edtech programs and responding to the demands of the new normal. Our new edtech programs have been designed to address your needs. Araling's Light, beyond a learning management system. Araling's Flex empowers schools to effectively use learning technologies and resources. Redefining our commitment to advancing the standards in research and assessment to influence the quality of performance outcomes in schools and in the workplace. Computer-based testing in the new normal. At Phoenix CEAPS, we army with holistic and meaningful resources. For innovative teaching and effective distance learning. At Phoenix CEAPS, we help you get ready for the next in Philippine education.
In this age of new normal, online is not your only option. Because new normal means new learning modalities and new learning possibilities. Let Vibal make learning offline possible with Smart Class. Smart Class contains pre-made daily modules sequenced according to DepEd's budgeted teaching and learning calendar. Each module has a specific lesson duration and has day markers to guide parents and teachers in the asynchronous learning of learners. Inside the modules available in Smart Class, you will find the following elements. First, learning competencies are identified in the module openers. Kickstarters are available to test students' prior knowledge on the subject matter. This set of activities, found at the beginning of each lesson, may also serve as motivational activities. Parents of preschool to grade 2 students will also find notes to parents which contain tips and pointers on how they can guide their child while learning at home. Redefine your students' learning experience with the integration of augmented reality technology into images and illustrations available in Smart Class, making learning more interactive and exciting. At the end of each module, Long Quiz is also available to assess students' understanding of the lesson. Smart Class also features Wrap Up, a lesson ender activity that applies the constructivism theory of learning. In Wrap Up, students are expected to summarize the lesson on their own using a graphic organizer. You may also evaluate the quality of your students' learning by letting them practice their learning in real life through GR.E.S.S formatted performance tasks. The content of Smart Class is designed for the entire academic year, and it is available for 5 major subjects. All aligned with DepEd's K-12 curriculum and covers the most essential learning competencies prescribed by DepEd. Secure your own copy of Smart Class before classes open. Contact marketing@dibalgroup.com to know more.
The COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in school closures all across the globe. But even in these uncertain times, education must continue.
Rodrigo Duterte says he won't allow students to go back to school
for a one-sided
continue operating. They have
She is talking about the shift to distance learning. Through this method, teachers deliver lessons outside the traditional classroom setup.
As a leading provider of e-learning materials in the country, Tech Factors Incorporated is committed in helping you and your students experience positive teaching and learning environment inside or even outside the physical classroom.
The DepEd year, we were not anymore having face-to-face classes with our students. We asked Tech Factor if we can convert to TechTeach. And I'm happy because they agreed to that proposal. So, we have scheduled trainings already for our teachers.
The way Tech Factors are handling their schools and the teachers is very accommodating and very commendable because they are there from time to time whenever we need guidance and help in terms of the LMS, in terms of the content.
Congratulations for coming up with very good, effective, relevant, and useful learning materials.
Tech Factors is continuously finding ways to adapt and to adjust in this new normal. I am convinced that being partners with TFI is a big help in this time of new normal.
Tech Factors Incorporated, making learning a great experience. For more information, visit us at www.techfactors.com.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. We hope you all had a good lunch. My name is Christine Lasaca Saludes from Miriam College Lower School. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. We hope you all had a good lunch. My name is Christine Lasaca Saludes from Miriam College Lower School, and I'm so happy to welcome you all to this afternoon's session, Session 2, which is entitled Place-Based Learning in Philippine Schools, Tapping into the Power of Place as an Effective and Alternative Learning Management System. This session offers simple learning design principles that leverage the power of place and not just technology, as most LMS do, in the age of the new normal. One's own home, community, society, and its surrounds become the new classroom environment, while the continuous symbiosis of seasons becomes the new curriculum. Here, both teachers and students make a strong and advantageous connection of discovery. Teaching and learning become more engaging, grounded, and relevant. As the talk is ongoing this afternoon, we encourage audience members to post your questions or comments at the comment section of this Facebook page, YouTube channel, and we will ask these questions or read the comments during the Q&A portion. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce our speaker, Father Norman Melchor R. Pena, Jr. from the Society of St. Paul. After finishing his Bachelor of Arts and Master of Arts, both in theology from the Catholic Theological Union in Sydney, Australia, Father Norman took a postgraduate diploma in management from Macquarie University and a second MA in communication from Griffith University, also in Australia. He then earned his doctorate in social communications in Università Pontificia Salesiana in Italy, graduating summa cum laude, and another doctorate in educational leadership and management from St. Paul University, Manila, also summa cum laude. Father Norman currently serves as Dean of Studies at St. Paul University in Silang, Cavite, and is a lecturer at Jesus Good Shepherd School in Imos, St. Paul Seminary Foundation, Inc., and Divine Word Institute of Mission. He's also currently lecturing education and communication courses at St. Paul University, Manila. When I met him yesterday to prepare for today's session, I could feel his passion and commitment in deepening communication. For education, he told me, is equated with communication. And for as long as people communicate on earth, then we all have much to learn and do. Ladies and gentlemen, Father Norman Melchor R. Pena, Jr.
So thank you very much, Christine, for that wonderful introduction, not only of myself, but siyempre, more importantly, is our topic. So the topic that we shall discuss today is something that's happening in the Philippines, might be something that is new, but it has been actually applied already many, many years ago. Pero ngayon, with the situation of COVID, I think it's very timely that we actually do it too. Most of the things that I will share now is actually a product not only of my education here in the Philippines, pero education that I have learned as well in overseas, being away for 25 years. from the Philippines, just coming back last 2015. I went away 1989. 25, I was 15 years in Australia. Tapos 11 years ako sa Italy. So most of the things that I will tell here are fruit of my experiences on house education, sabi natin, and the place-based learning would have a place actually in the Philippine educational system. So I would start, if can slides please. I would start with this quotation muna, which is actually something that I love dearly. Ang sabi dito was, place-based education is anytime, anywhere, that leverages the power of place and not just the power of technology to personalize learning. In a simple term, actually, anywhere, anytime, talaga namang it is something that where we are all in. We are all anywhere. We are all also, our use of time is also there. So part of the learning that we shall try to discover today is what can we learn from where we are? What can we learn from where we are? And in a time of COVID, it's actually very, very opportune to discuss this as well. Kasi nga, the reality is not most of us do have the luxury of having the internet connection, the learning management system. So what could this place-based education try to teach us in terms of learning? Leverage means, of course, it's an advantage for accomplishing something. So it gives us an advantage, yun na isa. That is very, very nice. It gives us an advantage accomplishing what? A purpose. We accomplish a purpose because of where we are, because of how and where we get our knowledge from. And sabi nga rin dito, in 1858 pa kasi yung leverage na word, it gives us actually, it enhances. We learn something, we gain something from it. Next slide, please. And in this sense, what we will try to discover, these are the, we could say, these are the things that is the topics for today. I will be discussing, first of all, in place-based learning, that is the first topic, which includes the time and space, experience, adaptation, which is very crucial, storytelling, narratives, and then place-based learning would always be actually learner-centered. A while ago when Dr. Pilar was speaking, she was speaking about the human-centeredness, facilitating that human-centeredness. Place-based education could be related to that one too, in that it is actually learner-centered. It is actually learner-centered, and that is something that we could actually aspire to. Second thing that will be discussed today, we hope to discuss, is in Philippine Catholic education. And here, siguro, our experience, most of this we know already. Philippine public and private, the basic ed, the K-12, the higher educational institutes, DepEd and CHED, CEAP and others. Tapos, of course, more importantly, yung Catholic ethos, the Catholic ethos that was there. And then afterwards, we'll also go to communicating and tapping. The principles kasi that I have always, through my experience in teaching, not only here but also overseas, is simply this, that every learning is actually communication. That there could be no education without communication. You cannot educate without actually communicating, either verbal or non-verbal, in many, many, many different ways. So education will always be linked to actually communication. If we could link it, kanina, Dr. Pilar has mentioned really something that's very significant in terms of dialogue and relationship. And that is actually the product also of communication, that relationship that is created. So education, place-based learning is all about communicating necessarily ideas, but communicating actually experience. And that's where the dialogue actually happens as well. So in terms of communicating and tapping, we will discuss a little on process and stages of communication, verbal, non-verbal. Tapos more importantly, yung signs, which is very important in place-based learning. Yung meaning of the things that are around you, meaning of the things that happens, and meaning of the things that are there to support what you actually know. And lastly, we will speak about learning management systems in terms of instruments and the media for learning. The LMS that we use, Zoom is one of them, that's what we're using now. Facebook, we could say, is one of them, the emails and all that. Those are actually instruments for learning. They are not the learning knowledge itself. They are actually instruments. And then managing actually those tools for us, then it's a system as our organization and the structures. Yung mga Zoom kasi, and then also even Schoology, even Canvas, even Edmodo, even Google Classroom, they follow actually a structure. At the end of it all, what it highlights, as what has been highlighted, I believe strongly by Dr. Pilar kanina a while ago, was that the person will always be at the center. So in place-based learning, the person is actually the best communication tool. And at the end of it all, is the conclusion that the person actually is the best learning management system, both as a teacher and both as a student, and both as a student. So that is actually what this talk and this session is all about, learning what it is really. Okay, number one, place-based learning. So in each of the texts, I have put a little question to ask. What is place-based learning? Can it also be done in schools, which is also a place? There, parang very philosophical. It seems like it's very philosophical question. Pero the truth is actually, it can be. It can be. Because it's also a place. Pero what does it mean really, place-based education? Place refers, of course, for now, it's a space, a dimension. It's an extent, a room area. It's actually a position where you are now. You are now listening to me. You are in your office, in your rooms, or in your clubs or whatever, but it's something that you occupy. A place is time and space. So the place you occupy, and where and when something happens. In that place always, there is something that happens. School is a place wherein the manner of learning is actually facilitated. School is one place wherein learning is facilitated. But it is not the only place where learning begins. Sabi nga nila, diba? The family and the home is the first place where education begins. The place base serves as actually the foundation of it all, the foundation of it all. So you might have many questions already in terms of ano nga ba ito? What is this that we are trying to teach? So I wrote here some of the guiding principles and actually questions. When did place-based learning start, and what are its advantages and disadvantages? What's the difference between home education and place-based education? What happens to the government-mandated curricula in a PBE setting? To which areas of learning can PBE be applied? And number 5, how can PBE be successfully be implemented, and what are its requirements? Medyo the assumptions that I would like to put forward is this. In terms of the first question, when did it start? Actually, since the beginning of time. Since the beginning of time, which means for me, since every living creature began to communicate, there is already actually a place-based learning that happens. Aware of the things that are around you, that is actually the beginning of place-based education already. It is therefore, we could say, an outcomes-based learning, even in the times past, mga ancient times pa pala eh. As long as people communicate on earth, there is some learning actually that happens there, because there is a transmission of things that are learned. And then it merges, what is it? Positive thing, it merges conventional and current learning tool. It doesn't take away the other, nor does it eliminate the other. It actually merges and complements what is actually there. The things that we learn in school is actually something that is unique. The things that we will learn actually in place or home at this stage because of COVID is something that actually we can learn from too. And the two combined can give us a very, very good outcome. Later on, we will actually distinguish them. In terms of positive thing, advantages, in terms of availability of resources, needed to complete actually some of the to complete the modules. And then siguro some of the disadvantages it will always have, since it is person-centered, individual student-centered, or individual experience-centered, it will always be based on subjective assessment. And it requires actually, hindi naman you have to reteach the teachers, pero actually you have to add something, realign what the teachers would be teaching in school to that when you have a place-based education. Now, the difference between home education and place-based education, we could say HE, home education, deliver and execute at home a required syllabus or module. There are many like this actually in Australia too. Although when you went to Australia, some of my classmates in the PhD before went to Australia, they actually saw schools, but that they are not the home education, but there are many persons actually or families in Australia, Filipino families too, who does actually home education for their children. The materials come from, actually, they come from America normally, and they do that. They deliver the required syllabus, they follow, they submit, they are graded. So that's home-based. Place-based is actually you tap the elements of place to become part of the learning for the syllabus or modules completion. You see what is there at home, and then you use it as part of the assessments rather than the generic assessments given to you, with the end of having a learning outcome that is similar to the one given at school. What happens in the government mandated curricula in PBE, I will always say that it is actually, it actually all remains. They are completed and they are actually fulfilled. I think this is very much important to know as well. Well, I'm teaching now also teaching now some of the senior high schools. Mga learning competencies nila, describe how communication is affected by media and information. All of that actually are actually fulfilled by place-based education too. All those things. So the required government inputs and outcomes are completed with greater participation, creativity, and productivity from the learners. Kasi nga, it's place-based, therefore student-centered, cognitive-based din ito. It's not necessarily what they learn that happens in place-based education, but what they learn tell them. Yan. Tell about themselves. Yan. Afterwards, number 4, to which areas of place-based education can it be applied? Can PBE be applied? Actually, to all the areas of learning. Kasi you have the syllabus, assessments, learning outcomes that are there too. So it can be applied to school culture, professional development, leadership, curriculum instruction, and also assessment, and then family, and also community. How can it be successfully implemented? As I mentioned at the beginning, the teachers have to do a bit of formation in how adding, I would have enhancing really what the students are capable of through individual, sabi natin, cognitive outcomes or learning outcomes for them. And then, of course, very, very important is that you have to have an inventory of place. That is actually very, very important. An inventory of place that the teachers will have actually it. It's actually interesting how here even, as I mentioned before, place-based learning is not actually only just now or like in the year 2000 it happens. It actually goes beyond from the time that the student or the child actually begins actually to learn. And part of those elements actually are described, next slide please, are described by John Dewey. Of course, this is a book that he has mentioned, the 4 instincts of learning. This is actually, so as I've told you, place-based learning is not only like a recent, it's actually, this book, School and Society, was written by John Dewey in 1902 still, imagine, 1902. So what does he say in terms of learning? That is actually the 4 instincts of learning that all people have. beginning with the childhood and all that. It starts with the childhood. We all have, number one, social instinct. These are actually basics for place-based instinct. The place-based education, the realization that each child, each person is actually a social being. We have the language instinct, we communicate, we actually talk, conversation, and as Dr. Pilar has mentioned, relationships. We actually relate. And it is actually in that we actually communicate. As has been mentioned also before by Charles Darwin, human beings only exist because of two S. All living creatures, hindi pala human beings lang, but all living creatures only exist because of two things. Number one is actually survival, the need to eat, to be nourished. And then the second one is this social instinct, the need to socialize. Every living being, daw sabi ganyan. Even the mosquitoes who bite you at night or in the dark, they actually have that instinct of survival. And then social instinct actually comes in there. Each of us too, even the trees around, they wanted to reach sunlight. But it's part of our nature to be social. Afterwards, after recognizing that we can communicate, afterwards that we are actually part of the social network of beings, it's our instinct to make, to invent something. If you are a little child, you actually draw mga pencils that you, or else you have little cubes like the Lego type, you construct, you build. Part of that is part of our instinct too. We don't just talk and talk. We like actually to build something. Parang ito yung creative dreaming that each of the young persons also have. Pero we have the instinct to make, to be social, to make, and then also the instinct of investigation. We actually have the instinct of investigation. And in this one, is something that we find out, we explore, tsaka yung research. Yung mga child, if you give a child something, ano yung gagawin talaga ng child than normally? What is their instinct? If I give the child, for example, if I give a child this mouse, if I give them this mouse, ano yung gagawin ng child dito? Either the child, ang kanyang investigation, siguro laruan ito throw niya siya. Or else the child would what? The child actually would bite this. For us as adults, our investigation instinct is that we know already what this is, and that is part of it. Pero part of the learning, place-based, is actually yung investigation. Then the other one, of course, is the artistic instinct that we all of us have. Hindi naman yung mga maarte, not that they are maarte, pero that they are actually, that instinct that they have, it's actually performative. And dito yung maganda, when I was teaching my apo, yung song ba na, that song that we all know, beep, beep, the small jeep is running down the street now, beep, beep, the small jeep is running down the street now. And there is also a Tagalog version. And then she said, stop, look, and listen, stop, look, and listen. And then after that song, she's actually 3 years old. And after that song, I told her, can you act this out? Can you act this out, the song? And then she said at once, okay, that's easy, Lolo. Sabi niya ganyan, beep, beep, the small jeep is running down the street now. And then he told me, no, that is not actually correct. That is not correct. It's not only that. There is a beep, beep. So I should do like this. Beep, beep, small jeep is running down the street now. Stop, look, and listen. Stop, look, and listen. Ang galing eh. That's the artistic. And each of us actually could cater to it. And each of us actually could cater to it. Each of us have that experience. Pero that it is part of us. We are social. We make. We investigate. We are actually artistic. And I believe place-based learning is actually all this. You become social with each of your surroundings. You become friendly with each of your surroundings. You actually make things. You investigate. You ask questions. And then you are artistic. Imaginatively, you would produce a result from one given thing. So that is the one too. Also here, we could say that in discussing this as well, there is the idea, ito na yung talagang, these are the place-based instinct really of what was suggested, the place-based learning, the key benefits. Ano yun? Learning is grounded in local communities and context, where you are talaga, not only in the home. Now in COVID time, it's actually the home. But it's not only that, okay? It's the local, grounded ka doon. Learning experience, student-centered and personalized. We know that one already. Learning is always relevant and engaging. Like my apo, when I told her, can you act it out? And she did. It's actually engaging. And then there's the social emotional learning that can be actually a priority too. The social thing. You began to relate with the others. Instruction can be in this interdisciplinary, not only notes, computer can be used, okay. And then lessons can be actually inquiry-based. Why is it like this? Why is it like that? Then students actually can be challenged to see the world through an ecological, political, economic, and social lens. Tama to. One with the creation environment, like what Pope Francis would normally say. Then the students can have an agency or autonomy. Actually, this one is the most important one. Artistic. They can have actually the freedom not to do what they like, but to express what was told to them and what it does to them. Yung bang learning yun eh. And then can also be called a design thinking. It encourages it. The student can meet deeper learning outcomes to it too. And the students can gain better appreciation and understanding of the world around them. Yun talaga. You are not based only in a room. You are based actually around. You are based actually around. And I think that is something that is important. So in terms of design principles, later on we will talk much on this too. It's actually local to global. The one you discover is one you would use globally. The one you discover now is one you can use globally. If I could relate it to Dr. Pillars, the globalization of hope, that is actually the hope that we have here, for example, that we express as Filipinos, it can be globalized, and that the experience here at home can actually be globalized. Kaya kanina, I was asking the question kanina rin on how, ano yung pwedeng benchmark sana in Philippine education for overseas schools actually, because what we normally do before is benchmark in other countries, what we can learn in terms of education. Siguro from a question, like globalization of hope, how is it expressed distinctly in the Philippines? Parang ganon, that's a place-based education. Learner-centered, inquiry-based, as we have said. Design thinking will always do that. Imaginatively express an output. Community, the whole community, everything around you, even your home becomes actually your classroom. And then it is interdisciplinary. Here comes, as I have said, it's not actually taking away, it is not taking away yung mga other learning management system. It's actually complementing it so as to produce a more personalized outcome for you, which you could actually use. And in terms of this, at once, I would like to share this. When I was thinking of this, then I thought really of what we did even in PhD natin, the PhD that we did with our classmates. The basics talaga of Catholic education and educational system. What are there in terms of this? And this one, I thought to myself, okay, I'll try to do a little table in terms of this, on how it can be represented. And what I came up with, so pedagogical areas, then the CBE. CBE means like the campus-based or school-based education, and then the place-based education. How do they complement each other? Yan lang naman talaga yung ano ko dito. As I've said, CBE, I am not putting them in opposition to the other. What we are trying to do is actually how to complement them to have a better or else a more personalized outcome for each student. In terms of instruction, CBE mainly, for example, objective-based exams would always be about memorization. It's a way of knowing. Sa place-based education naman, it's actually a lived awareness. It's actually a way of living. And I believe here, when I was teaching some Ph.D. students naman, the Chinese. When I was teaching the Chinese, I was greatly impressed because I was teaching them philosophy of education. But what happened was, I was telling them, okay, can you tell me about the philosophy, your own philosophy in the country that you're in China, for example, and they submitted their assessments. Ito. And the way they submitted at once is, even in terms of their philosophy, yung Confucianism, sina Lao Tzu, Menchu, yan. The Chinese one, the Chinese philosophy is always, in terms of instruction, it's actually a way of living. How they apply what they know. How they apply what they know. Very, very interesting for me. Kasi nga, even in a country like Australia, Italy, Spain, England, education is about instruction. It's all about way of knowing. Knowledge-centered. Yung isa naman, it's life-centered, the way of living. Okay, in terms of dito naman, in terms of assessment, what does it do? It's actually, it can be, the assessment is replicable. I can duplicate the assessment in campus-based. Okay, number one is true, for example, false, true, false. I could actually differentiate it at once, and I could imitate it. This is not all for number one. But in terms of PBE, it's actually applicability that is applied. In terms of assessment, it's applicability. And then in terms of curriculum, it's actually the conventional. Actually, in saying this, actually, I would say, kasi nga, communication is all about history of how people communicate too. So, like in years' time, what we have today as like modern instruments, what we use today as learning management systems, in the future will actually be called conventional. So talagang it's not the instruments that could make it like modern, or should we talk of something that is modern. So the best way that I could see that it is in relation to communication and education, PBE, is actually in terms of the curriculum, it's the new normal. We go back to what our surroundings can tell us about what we are trying to learn. We go back to what our surroundings are telling us regarding what we are trying to learn. It becomes going back to the roots and relearning them, relearning the roots. It's actually that is the new normal. Because the idea is really what we have today. Every modern instrument, even my cell phone today, this one, although it's like modern, masasabi natin, even the computer that you use now will actually be conventional in the near future. So what will never change, that is always there, masasabi natin, is actually the world around us. This computer that I have now, this one, in time, malalaos na to, mawawala daw. It will not have any battery anymore. It will be superseded. Ano na to? It will be forgotten. New models will appear already. So not the Samsung, this model. So the new normal allows us to actually relook at what is around us and learn from it in terms of what it can offer. Because it offers us possibilities beyond, actually, over and beyond what this one can give in terms of learning, in terms of instruments of learning. This one teaches us actually principles, knowledge. Like the trees around me now, what does it teach me? Principles? No. It teaches me actually life. It teaches me a life and how I could apply even my own life to it, how I could pattern. In terms of leadership, what is it? Therefore, we could say that it is actually leadership organizational, and then cellular, we could say. Learning management system, I could say it's external because it's really outside of me. This one, internal. This is digital and technical. Then the other one is socio-anthropological. Yan siya. And then in terms of resources, this is instruction-centered. The other one is learner-centered, structured. structured and future. Then the research is empirical, global. It's actually exploratory. You explore things outside of you. You explore things it's outside of you. Tapos, in terms of professional development, you focus on the challenges around you. You know, place-based, more often than not, they focus more on opportunities. What can this thing still teach me about what I am facing now? What is the thing around me? In terms of objectives, it's actually translation. But in PBE, it's actually transformation. Why is it just a translation? Because it's a translation only of what was given. I just give it to you what is written here. Whereas transformation is what is written here can transform me in my life. Yun talaga yun eh. What is written here can have an effect on my life. In terms of outcomes, it's actually empowering. Talaga yan. CBE, campus, you are all called to empower. It's written in many of the vision mission statements also. And then, but in PBE, it actually is supposed to inspire. It's actually supposed to inspire. It's supposed to inspire. So this one, I have explained it very quickly. Pero talagang may mga I have some modules after explaining each of these that is actually better. But because of time, we will actually not discuss this one already. This is like the initial steps of place-based learning na. Preliminary process actually is on form. That's input that you get even from the mandated and required curriculum. Then, in terms of this, you discuss it with the professors. They begin to be involved. This is where it really starts. They begin to be involved. They ask questions, they investigate. Afterwards, they collaborate, and then they actually empower. They are actually empowered already. For most of us, empowering is the last word. Empowering is the last word. But for place-based education, it's actually not yet the last word. I empowered, therefore what? I can do things. Pero the other one that I have mentioned before, I believe the last word is that it should actually inspire. And here is where I like to link the talk of Dr. Pilar. It actually gives you hope. Yan. It actually gives you hope. That is an inspiration. Hope. One of our priests in Italy has always said, La speranza è l'ultima cosa di morire. Hope is the last thing to die in a person. Hope is the last thing that should die in a person. Very, very nice. So this image that the image that I actually use, this one, can you go back please to the last one, the last slide please. The last one, this empowerment actually, what I have encouraged most of my students, especially the graduate students, the teachers, like after empowering, what would be the drawing next to this, which would be here? What would be the drawing? So this is not the last word. It's just a preliminary process. So what could be the drawing after this? How would we represent it, and how would you call it? The most of the students would draw many different things, but the summary was the different things that they have drawn in a piece of paper. How it would be represented. It's actually one that points to inspiration, hope, and all that. Those are the things. Next slide, please. Okay, then this one is actually also one of the sayings that I have always liked with placing. Ito kasi yan eh. We learn. How do we learn? Why do we learn it? And where do we learn it? Place is always a place where we are from. It's where we are going. That one is very nice. So it's not just centered on the now. It's actually where we are going, the future. It comes in layers. It's old and it's new. Place is central to human development. It is how we apprehend the world. How we understand the world is actually how the world works. How we understand the world should be how should we understand the world? We should understand the world in how it works. If the clouds are cloudy, there are thick clouds, it will actually rain. Or dark clouds, it would rain. If the sun is out, therefore it is morning. If the sun is not out, it's evening. Although in Australia, sometimes even though the sun is still up, 10 p.m., the sun is still up, some in Melbourne. And then it asks for our attention and our care. If you pay attention, Place has much to teach us, and this is actually what we could actually do with place-based attention. Pay much attention, and this is actually the greatest thing that like even teachers of place-based education should actually learn. Paying attention to the world around you, paying much attention to the world around you. Next slide, please. Now we are going to Philippine Catholic education. You have discussed many of these a while ago already, so I would not discuss this. The question that I placed here is, what is most distinctive about Catholic education in the Philippines? We are a people of hope. When I did my studies in Italy before, theology, the professor at once told me, where are you from? Then I said, the Philippines. Then he at once told me, okay, the Philippines, that's actually 92% Catholic. And I was very happy, actually. He affirmed, and he knew what was the characteristic. The Philippines, that is actually 92% Catholics. But then as I realized afterwards, even when I came back to the Philippines, okay, we are 92% Catholics, but what has it done to our life, to our system, even to our government, our educational system? Our educational system, there's no question, we try to uphold it. But even in our homes, we are 92% Catholics before. Like what has it done in our life? How have we lived it in our homes? How have we lived it in our homes? And here, next slide, please. Hello, ayun, there. So the next slide says, this is just from Gravissimum. Education is a universal right. In Christian education, this is achieved. Parents are the primary authors, education, so the parents. Then the schools are designed not only to develop the special care of intellectual faculties, but also to form the ability to judge rightly. So it's not only to teach you something that is external of you, but to help that external to help you discover the inside of you that could be beneficial to what is external. I hope that is actually clear. So what is put in you, the way you say that you could, the outcome is that what is put inside of you in terms of learning, you could actually apply in your own life so that you could contribute to what is outside afterwards. Foster a sense of values, prepare. To attain this, coordination and cooperation is actually necessary. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide actually refers to one of the so this one was one of our great findings when we were doing before our thesis, dissertation, the key characteristics of Catholic school by Cardinal Miller. In terms of the one on the middle, you see Mentifact, Artifact, and Sociofact. This is actually the Catholic culture characteristics. Cardinal Miller applied, sustained by gospel witness, inspired by the supernatural, founded in Christian anthropology, animated by communion. A while ago, Dr. Pilar mentioned that one too, and community and a Catholic worldview. So all of this, Cardinal Miller in 2006 identified after Cardinal Miller was before as well with the Pontifical Commission on Catholic Education in Rome. So he was the one who formulated these 5 principles of Catholic education. So how do we embed it? I guess even the PCSS has actually mentioned to us something of this. Pero ito lang, yung alignment of it. The ones that you see in color are actually the ones of Cardinal Miller. The ones in black are actually, these words are actually from, these are from the survey. So this is live. This is actually from the survey of Philippine schools that I have done in terms of my dissertation really. How do they define communion, supernatural vision, Catholic curriculum, Christian anthropology, and gospel witness? Okay, what words do they associate with communion? Do you respect, Christian identity? Ang ganda eh. These are actually the black ones are actually what is the distinctive about Philippine Catholic education are actually the words actually in black. These are actually coming from students, teachers, and parents and administrators. So this, we could say in general terms, this is Catholic education, characteristics of Catholic education in the Philippines. And these are schools around the Philippines. in the major regions of the Philippines. It's just interesting how they actually fit in as well. Justice, Christianopology, Gospel, and it is actually nice to see it. And admittedly, what is also nice is actually in terms of the vision and mission. Ito yun. For the students and from the teachers, in terms of alignment, even here, most of our, for example, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Can you return? Sorry, can you return to the other slide? Okay. So these other slides that you have seen are actually, as I mentioned, the colored ones are actually the ones that are cardinal needers. Okay. So what I did here is actually put the words here of the parents, students, and administrators and faculty regarding Catholic education, regarding the different areas of Catholic education. So at least that one is, as I mentioned, distinctive. And how can they be actually distinctive? Next slide, please. Here is where I believe the alignment is very, very important. The vision mission of the school. And then this one teacher has said, my personal vision and mission should not be away from the school, from what the school wants. So there is actually an application. And this I have asked always when I give retreats and talks to the teachers. How much of your vision, mission, or statement of the school can you really take home, that you can practice at home? How much of the vision, mission of your school can you actually take home, that you can actually share to your families? I don't know if ever some of you have done it already, but I think that is what you can call mission in continuity. It is something that you do in continuity. Therefore, this teacher was saying, if this be true, and I would ask now the teachers now in front of us, even the administrators and faculties, if you go back to your mission statement again, okay, does my mission statement as a Catholic school remain only on the four corners of my school, or have I brought it home already? And ito yung magandang challenge. That is the nice challenge that I place always the teacher before, even yung mga admin, and even the superintendents, before I've asked them, how much of this have you taken actually home? How much of this have you shared to your family? Siguro it would be something that is nice in terms of Catholic education, that our vision and mission statements remain not only in our walls, but actually we put in our hearts and actually take it home. And the one of the assessments nga that I gave to my class noon in terms of vision and mission for the teachers and admin was, sige, find time tonight to share to your family during dinner your vision and mission. Just ask them what they think of it. Ganda, and afterwards, the result was talaga, some of them really, Father, this is only the first time that we did that, and we never knew that it can actually be effective like that too. So the first challenge actually of play space is not actually bringing home modules or curriculum. Actually, for me, the first challenge of place-based education is actually to bring home actually your vision and mission statements. Nakalagay doon minsan is empowering, academic excellence, very good. How do you therefore translate it at home? How do you translate it at home? It will always be nice to have a sense of that. How is my vision and mission? How do I take it at home? O talaga namang after school, it's just there inside the gates of the school. I have not brought it home with me kasi there are already other things to do at home. But if the vision mission is correct, if this teacher is correct, it should actually be supposed to be a personal vision and mission too. Next slide, please. Okay, in terms of students, of course, sabi naman niya, I have great respect for the teachers because I believe they have a big impact on my development. See? They have a big impact on and I believe many of you would have that one too. That's actually part of big impact, which means it has an effect on them, not only in school, but also in the home. Then we are often reminded that grades are not the sole important things, but character formation. Yeah, this is actually part of the focus group discussion that we have with the students, character formation in a Catholic school is part of actually the humanism that Dr. Pilar actually is actually speaking of. And then we are supposed, sabi dito, to align our personal beliefs with the school as well. And what's the effect of that? Next slide, please. This is just to describe. This is actually the world that we live in. This is the world that we live in. This is the world that we live in that each of us would have. Of course, the green one are the Islam. The blue ones is actually the Catholics. The violet ones, the purple ones, the Catholic, Orthodox, sa ganyan. The yellow and the orange one are the Chinese religion, Hinduism, and the others. So you will just see, this is like the mission of the Catholic Church. It's actually in a mission of different religions, but this is part of also our place. This is part of our place, and this is part of something that it has something to teach us regarding our beliefs, regarding our fraternal humanism, we could say as well. Next slide, please. Ito naman, just to have a passing, part of what is Catholic, how is Catholic perceived actually. In Luzon, sorry, wrong spelling, that I think I did that. This is actually from the region 1. Hold on, cannot read it much. This is from region NCR, region 1, region 3, region 4, region 5. How do they see Catholic? These are the words of parents and yung mga similar words, the great words. Interesting, in Luzon, they actually have 5 descriptions na parang similar ang karamihan. It's actually religion, Christ-centered, faith, God, and actually Christian. That is in Luzon. What I found out, different regions naman to, region of the Visayas, they are decreased already in 3 words, religion, Christ-centered, and faith. Next slide, please. Yan. And then, yan. In the Visayas, religion, Christ-centered, and faith, I did not actually make this. This is for the from the students, the teachers, how best they would describe. In Mindanao, it's interesting too. How would they see Catholic? The word Catholic in Mindanao, they would describe it only as, yung major niya talaga, central. It's actually a religion only. So even there, you would see something that is actually most important. And this is what the school does to us too. This is what the school does to us. And here I could say, in terms of our belief, in terms of education, where does Catholic education end? Ano nga ba yung kanyang end? And here I believe is where this book of Neil Postman is very interesting. He's not actually Catholic. But anyway, we could read together. The God I refer to is the name of a great narrative, one that has sufficient credibility, complexity, and symbolic power, so that it is possible to organize one's life and one's learning around it. Without such a transcendent narrative, life has no meaning. Without meaning, life has no purpose. And without purpose, schools become houses of detention and not attention. So I would ask Cyrus if you could play that little video, please. I don't know if you can hear.
None, school is pointless.
I hope you can hear it.
Nietzsche's famous remark is relevant here. He said once, he who has a why to live can bear with almost any how. And this applies, I think, as much to learning as to living. To put it, as I said it before, there is no surer way to bring an end to schooling than for it to have no end. A God, in the sense I'm using the word, is the name of a great narrative, one that has sufficient credibility.
Okay, Cyrus, can you just stop it? Because there is really no sound,
so that it's possible to organize.
Okay, ayan, there, okay. Hindi, ito na lang, sige. Yung last na lang, yung 4 minutes, sige. It's not actually working and moving on
has
my end.
sufficient
Anyway, sige, i-cut mo na muna.
complexity and symbolic
Cyrus, you can
power,
cut it already. Return
so
to the
that it's
slides,
possible
please.
to organize.
Hello, Cyrus. Uh-oh. Ah, it's on. It's not on my end yet. Okay. Ayan, very good. Very good. Okay. So anyway, as we have heard, you did not watch that video, pero Neil Postman was describing something about, yun nga, ito, the one that is written before. Without the narrative of God in our life, the narrative, our own life has no meaning. Without meaning, life has no purpose. And without purpose, schools become houses of detention and not attention. And I believe that is a very, very strong point too regarding our schools. What we teach in our schools in terms of faith, in terms of learning, are they with a purpose? And the purpose you have if you actually are able to apply the vision and mission of the school. That is when you attain the purpose. If your curriculum does not stick to arrive at achieving yung parang vision and mission, therefore your schools actually become houses of detention lang, and just knowledge lang but not learning and not attention, because it cannot be applied. Okay, now I will go to that slide that you have here now in your screen. That is, education is communication. And then the question that I put there is simply this: can you educate without communication? Or can you communicate without education? It's interesting. I asked before our registrar here, can you educate without education? And sabi niya, no, Father. And then I asked her, can you communicate without educating? And then she said, yes, Father. And it happens often that you communicate but without educating. So here is the premise that where I believe that communication is actually very much linked to education and communication. Next slide, please. Education, okay, basic definition is to nourish. Educare and educere. Educere at saka educare. It's to raise up, to bring forth, to draw out, to lead. Means the act of teaching and also training. What is communication? The transmission of ideas. Therefore, to raise it up, emotions from one person or another. When you nourish, you transmit something, you bring up something, you raise up something with the aid of extension or tools that is rooted in our ability and need to survive as well as to socialize. That is from Charles Darwin, 1872. Now, what is the common point in both of them? It's actually the human person. The human person, even according to Dr. Pilar, is very central actually to our education, the human person. And the human person in communication is actually very, very important. The best instrument of communication is still the human person. According to Dr. Pilar, the best way of education too is also through the human person, the subjects, the teachers, and the students. And again, with this quote, communication and the instrument it employs are an integral part of the human person. Each person is a communicator. Inherent in each one is also the need to communicate. Now, this is a bit technical, but it's actually very, very important in place-based learning. Communication is seen always in two terms, as a process and as a semiotics. Maganda doon. It's always linear. A process is always linear. Sees communication as a process and centers on the stages of transmission from the sender, masasabi natin, the medium, and the receiver, and the destination. So that is the basic. You know that. There's the stages. Most of the time, our CBE, campus-based, is actually communicating as a process. Communicating as process. What is communicated? What is communicated? Parang ito yung isang, like this is the syllabus of media and literacy. Ayan, I'm from the school and from DepEd. Yun ang syllabus. It's actually a process. You should teach the content. You should teach the content standard. What is the performance standard, learning competencies, and what is the code? It's actually a process style. It's a linear. The student to pass should be 1, 2, 3, 4. Should actually do all the process. Interestingly, there is also one communication which is a semiotic communication, or it depends on the sign. Communication as the creation and exchange of meanings. It is a structural approach. So structure, 1, 2, 3. Hindi siya structure na ongoing, pero structure that it is, pyramid style. Approach that focuses on the relationship, ayan, Dr. Pilar, word, relationship, between the constituent element necessary to obtain meaning. So in terms of communication as science is, you obtain meaning, you obtain significance. Here, in this concept, sige, nandiyan yung sign, nandiyan yung object, ano yung concept, andiyan yung sign, what is the sign, what is the object, and then what is the concept. I was telling my students before, okay, this is a pen. Okay, this is a pen. What is actually the sign of this? The sign of this, of course, is P-E-N, pen. That's the sign, P-E-N. What is the object? This pen. Ito pen na to. And what is the concept of this? Writing. That is actually yung writing na. That is what it, when I show you this, so students this, it's actually about, they would not think, that's a pen. When I give you this, what will you do with this? You will not tell me, oh, that is a pen. That is P-E-N. No? What will you do? The concept. You will actually write with it. Alam na natin. So that at once, that is actually the learning that we have already done because we know already the sign, P-E-N, we know the object and the concept. And dito, as signs, of course, we have different meanings for different things. And as teachers, we use this. Iba naman. Sige, iba. Here, go to the mouse. Again, we go back to the mouse. Hindi, sige, go back na lang tayo dito sa pen. We go back to the pen. Okay, sige, ito. As adults, this one for us is P-E-N. Pero a child, like a baby, if you give this to them, what will the baby do? Sabi na natin kanina, the baby will actually only either throw it away or put it in the mouth. So yung concept ng writing wala sa kanya. So in terms of science, there are many different meanings to this. Hindi lang isa, depending on the culture, depending on the person. Place-based education might seem tedious, might seem parang ang hirap in terms of communication kasi parang ang daming meaning na makukuha. Pero what is nice about it is that it adapts to the person. It adapts to the person. Kung ano yung paningin mo dito, that is actually how I think of it. I might, pag tumanda na, if they grow old already, the children, then they would have a different perception of this. And that is actually, place-based learning is a multiplicity of meanings. There is a multiplicity of meanings, but what it does actually is to individualize learning, not to compartmentalize learning. Yun, that is what place-based learning does in terms of communication. It individualizes the learner, how he perceives what is in front of him, what was said of him, how he actually acts on it. It doesn't compartmentalize. Okay, next slide is actually this one already that is there. As you can see, place-based learning relies more on discovery and exploration of meaning, interpretation and significance that goes beyond what is physically evident. This is actually, when I give this to you, you do not say, it is white. It is actually long. No, what you go for in place-based learning is you write at once. Kasi our age. Then it is more concerned not with arriving at a correct and exact answer, but of asking the right question in order to obtain the most meaningful response to the person. Now, we were discussing this with Christine before, yung ating moderator now. Sabi ko ng the correct, getting the right answer. But place-based learning is more not on getting the right answer, but asking the right questions. Asking the right questions. As such, it can be characterized as following more the communication of signs. Ito nga, it asks not, yun sa baba, look at the drawings on the bottom. How many pencils are there are here and what colors. This is externally evident. Place-based learning is this. Why was this picture used here and what it means for me? Significance of presence. This is what place-based learning does. It doesn't actually concentrate on really what you see only, but why is it there? The significance of that and what it means for me. What it means for me. Kaya it has always something to teach us, we could say. At ito na yun dito. In terms of this, learning, we could say attains its a text attains its significance only when it is read. Sabi yan ni Walter Ong. Talagang if you have a book and you do not read the book, therefore that book is actually insignificant kasi you have not read it naman. How can it be significant to you? So in the same way, we can formulate that learning attains its significance only when it is actually lived, when communicated in our life. Next hit, please. Yeah, thank you. Learning attains its significance only when it is lived, when you can apply it in your life. I can apply this in my life as an adult. I write in it. I write with it. And then when it is actually communicated in life. Next slide, please. Okay, number 4, place-based learning. We are ready to end to place-based learning management system and effective and alternative. Now, next slide, please. No, wait. Wait. Can you go back, please? We should read the question. Am I using this technology or is it using me? This one is part of the interview. Again, Neil Postman is a great media scholar and educator too. Pero he asked this question, am I using this technology or is it really using me? Our current learning management system, are we using it really or is it using us? Are our students using it tapos for the whole day or is it using them? Or is it using them? That is actually a good question in terms of the learning management systems. Next slide, please. Okay. And then the next slide would tell us, wait a minute. The next slide, place can be drawn upon any subject. This approach can also encourage educators to look beyond language and methods of their own fields to explore problems and projects that open the possibility of cross-disciplinary dialogue, interdisciplinary dialogue. Any subject. This is written by Sobel, 2010. That in everything he said, he believes, and I believe it is true, that everything around us can teach us about everything. That everything around us can teach us about everything. Everything around us can teach us about how we actually behave. Later on, I will give a much clearer example for that. This one too is like the conversation, communication. The dialogue is here, happens. Next slide, please. The dialogue happens in the prism. Andiyan na yan lahat. Oh, this is the communication, conversation. When in traditional media, the medium is the message. McLuhan, 1964. In digital communication, the medium is really who we are. Our paradigms of perception and interaction, which tends to undergo modification so as to adapt to the new medium. Provetorni is actually a good Italian writer in terms of web psychology. Sabi niya talaga, medium is the message before, McLuhan, but nowadays, the medium can actually become who we are. He tells us, our learning management, our learning in COVID times, what does our learning management system in COVID times describes actually who we are, our paradigms of perception and interaction. Most of the times it does. Zoom describes us. Ito, ngayon, it describes us. We are actually modern. Okay? We are modern. And that is actually very, very good. We are modern. Our paradigms of perception is like this. Images. And actually, it is actually very, very nice. Pero yung paradigm of perceptions natin would be like this. Paradigms of perception. Next slide, please. Next. Hit mo na yung lahat. Yes, please. Yes. Another one. Thank you very much. So in the next one, you would see this is my historical communication wheel. Communication has always been information, communication, mind, heart, and will. Catholic yan, versions, John 14:6. And then social relationships, the mind, the heart. Sabi natin, most of our LMS system is actually in the information and communication side. It's our mind and our will that it trains actually. It's our mind and our will that it trains. Pero the use of learning management systems actually requires a third portion, which is social relationships. What relationships does our use of learning management system create? Or is it only oftentimes minsan ice training and all that? Yun din we have to rethink. Is our learning management system currently allows for these three: information, communication, and social relationships? Does it create it? Does it allow it? Does it allow it? Much of the internet communication today focuses on information giving and communication exchange. It falls short on the creation of social relationships. COVID nga, syempre wala rin talaga. Catholic school social media use ought to focus more on upholding the development of social relationships rather than only in the media. Kaya nga yun, when I was in Italy talaga doing that study before, the distinction, what is social media and what's supposed to be a disadvantage social media, we tend to focus more on the media rather than the social. Not doing so reduces our social media use to consumption. Pagka media lang, if our learning management system is really concentrated only on using it, that's actually consumption. It does not lead rather to conversion or transformation. How do they apply what they have actually seen today in Zoom or in other learning management system? Yun pa rin. Can they talk more to their parents now? Is their parents talking to them to guide them? Yung ganun ba? And then communication, of course, the key to communication is information, communication, and also relationship. Next slide, please. And this one is also very nice in terms of this. Ivan Illich is an Austrian, but he's very good. He said, the degree with which you master your tools, you can invest the world with your meaning. The degree with which you are mastered by your tools, the shape of the tools determine your own self-image. And in many ways, oftentimes, sana our learning management systems that we currently use do not fall on this. That it determines our own self-image of learning. Our own self-image of learning. What place-based learning does is actually to give you an opportunity to discover other meanings and alternative meanings in a way that is theirs. And yun nga. But do not get me wrong, please. I am a graduate of social communication. I do not hate computers or technology. Actually, I love them. But I always believe that I should love more the best instrument of communication, which is actually the person, to utilize more the person as an instrument of communication or as a method of learning and the one it can teach us. Yun talaga, I would actually home into that. Next slide, please. So, anyway, what does it tell us now in terms of place-based learning? How do you implement it? Postlude, distinct from the normal LMS, rooted in technology. It is actually distinct because in place-based learning, even without technology, it can survive in terms of assessments. It can actually be done because you will be fulfilling, there is a learning outcome even without them. Pero, as I've said, it is distinct, but it doesn't replace it, okay? It doesn't eliminate it. It complements. The teacher and the student are the best learning management systems and communication media. Place-based learning is always an instrument, learning management system that we can actually enjoy. How do you therefore do it? First, aking mga 5 P's: preserve, provide, prefer, produce, and practice. Siyempre, you have to do the rationale, objective alignment. Therefore, you also would need, of course, kung meron kang DepEd requirement, follow this as part of the rationale, okay? This is the DepEd requirement, syllabus. Yung scope niya, nandito rin. Inputs mandated are also here. You follow that. It's in the methodology of the assessment or the learning objectives and learning competencies, no, the instrument for assessments or measuring of the assessments that can come yung methodology. You need actually the place inventory, the resource. It should be actually exploratory. How to discover it exploratory. And you actually prefer it as a first method. Hindi ko sinasabing do not prefer the other ones. I'm repeating. It's actually a complementary method. And then the learning results are actually signs. Be prepared to have a multiplicity of meanings and to actually to swim in wonder at the multiplicity of results that your students can actually give you. You as a teacher will also be enriched. I have been much enriched by that one already too. Interpretation, messages, you produce. This is something that is produced. This is something that is produced. And then the outcomes, of course, it's actually, they should be very significant and applicable. Something that you can practice in your life. Something that you can practice in life. At the end of it all, it's actually the difference between meaning and significance, kahulugan at kabuluhan. We should aim actually at the place-based learning aims to arrive at the significance, place-based learnings. Okay, just a little mention. Okay, the key to success, this is the second to the last. The last slide will be the resources. Creative dreaming. If your students can do some creative dreaming, drama, drawings, even observing how the birds chirp, how the birds fly, how the trees actually break down their roots, yung leaves, different things around the leaves, it's also very good. Design participatory form assessment, reflect on the process of learning. This one for the teacher is very creative. The teacher in place-based learning is also a learner, because she discovers also something that she has not or he has not taught before. Therefore, that process of learning is also important. There is a multiplicity of results, but there is also a multiplicity of learning that cannot be discounted. They acknowledge, and this one happens when you acknowledge the unintended outcomes, the ones that you do not expect. In the campus-based, oftentimes, you actually expect some of the knowledge intended outcome. Dapat perfect siya ganito. Pero here, actually, yung unintended outcomes. Give opportunity to demonstrate knowledge to students. Look for indicators of student imaginative engagements. Drama, how they will do it. Then consider output scores as part of a range of indicators. That it is not, it is actually part of a big number of indicators in terms of the assessments. Siguro one of the things that is to highlight this, as I have mentioned, ito lang, that all of us are actually students in a place-based learning. Even the teachers become learners because they learn from what the students as well discover. And I think it's in the discovery of learned meanings that education comes. It is in the discovery of learned meanings that learning and education comes. And kasi nga, Catholic pa rin tayo, discovered of learned meanings rooted in our belief in Catholic faith when you discover authentic Christian education. It is when you discover authentic Christian education. So here is, I just put back again this the leverage principles. And lastly, syempre, ito na yung mga acknowledgement sources that I have used here. John Dewey, 1938, 1902, remember? That's getting to know. There are actually a number of resources still here. And then a number of their programs that I'm trying to devise, at least for the teachers, in terms of how to teach or how to accompany children in a place-based learning in the Philippines, at least in the Philippines. And with that, I'd like to end with this thought again that we have seen. We have seen a bit, we have that I have read already before. Without a context that is contextual, which is place-based, that becomes a narrative, life has no meaning. Without meaning, life has no purpose. And without purpose, our schools, becomes houses of detention and not attention. So thank you very much for actually the listening ear. Thank you.
Thank you, Father Pena. You really got us thinking about this paradigm, about how we can be more attuned to our learning environment. And I'm sure that the minds of our listeners are abuzz right now. So we will now welcome questions from our audience members. Please type your question on our Facebook and YouTube pages. So a comment came in earlier, Father, while you were saying something about living creatures exist for survival and for socialization. So Celerina Puerto Rupal said, see the connections on instinct survival. Thank you po. Yan po ang sabi ni Ms. Rupal. And then Otilia Sala said, thanks for this opportunity to learn and update my knowledge. Thelma Barikawa says, great learning. Belido Aguilar says, hope, the last thing to die within us. Inspiring. So, may impact po yun sa kay Mr. Aguilar. And then, Sister Bernadette says, blessings of peace and well-being to everyone from St. Paul College of Parañaque. Kudos, dear Father Norman. Thank you for sharing. And then Celerina Puerto Rupal also says, empowering is the best word for hope, a fruitful session. Pilar Romero says, this is the antidote to homogenization, Father Norman, since it considers context, content, dialogue. And then Gilda Villador said, can we be provided with the notes of the speakers? That of Father Norman and earlier, I suppose, Dr. Romero. Yes, so the answer to this is yes. We will be uploading all materials in the CEAP website. That's www.ceap.org.ph. And we have Lolita Tandong who said, thank you po, Father Norman. You are one of our former recollection master. Your talk was very beneficial for us in the ministry, and good day to you po. So there, and then there's one more from Philip Yu. Thank you for making us think on how we use our LMS and calling our attention on the danger that LMS can bring in the effect of a teacher wanting to impart his or her lesson. So we have a lot of insights related to that, Father. Okay. And many thank yous from our audience members. You know, Father, I like what you said also, Father Norman. It's part of our nature to be social as much as it is part of our nature to survive. So even if we are physically apart, we're able to survive, no, and continue our learning. So we're also able to connect with our friends from everywhere in the Philippines. We have Bukidnon, Bohol, Cebu, Baguio, Pangasinan, Davao. So thanks to the internet as well, you know, it also connects us in that sense, no? It bridges that gap.
Instincts.
Leia Rabaya says, thank you, Father Pena, for this very rich input. Yes.
And then instinctive kasi talaga, instinctive. I always like the instinctive that has been entrusted to us. Kasi the instinctive, kahit nga dito in our compound, I was telling our students a while ago when we had an encounter, we have three types of birds. Meron kaming itik, pikansa, at saka merong pabo. Those three. Pero instinctively, I asked them, hindi yung pabo, I asked them, what is, how can we describe this instinctively? If the pabos, yung mga pabo, there are many kasi, we have many turkeys. But there is a male pabo, there is a male na turkey. But when he walks together with the females, by instinct, how would he walk? And normally, he would walk actually together with them, so inside the circle. But no, the male turkey would actually walk outside, yung sa labas lang. Tapos para siyang he will be the one guarding. Galing oh. Tapos when he guards, yung mga yung mga wings niya will all be spread. As in, parang the protective instinct. And I think that is actually very, very interesting too in terms of what yung context natin, that we could never, even in our learning, we cannot actually deny nor escape yung ating mga personal or human instincts. That is part, sabi natin, part of humanism are actually our instincts that we should not escape from. It will always be there. It's education and learning.
That's right. It's part of our being human to have those instincts.
Yes.
Father, we have another comment from Jennifer Hisala Medina. The home, the primary source of learning, is the best place in educating our children. Thank you, Father. And then Daisy Simbahon Abayan has a question. Okay, so hi, Father. She says, I'm sorry if I have not heard the initial part. Kindly confirm if place-based education is also gearing to PCSS. Very enriching, Father, as it places education into life appreciation, and God bless.
Actually, if the definition of place-based learning is actually true, therefore it should actually it should have a place in PCSS. It should have actually. It should be. It should. Yan ang aking basic answer.
All right. Thank you, Father. Clarence Marquez says, place in Christian life belongs to the faith reality of the incarnation.
Very heavy,
pero nag-synthesize na siya. And then Alma Ading Bagadi says, she has a question. How do you conduct participative assessment in a self-modular learning? Do you have any insights for that, Father? How do you conduct participative assessment in a self-modular learning?
It's actually here. We define muna yung self. Where is the person? Where is the I will do it. I will define first where is the self. As a starting point, what is that self? Where is it located? Is it located also? If, for example, student, I'm the only student of St. Paul, Manila, for example, but in my family, I'm alone. Okay, I'm alone. Yun ba yung, if that is the meaning, pero I would presume muna, inventory of place muna. What else is actually what else is there in the house? Kasama ba niya yung parents niya? Is it included there in the parents, or even yung even the house helper? Is it there? Even the driver, even actually yung mga kapitbahay. Actually, they are actually part of the place or part of the community. So even though yung mga ganong term, unless talaga you are in the remote place or in another planet na talaga namang alone ka, which could never be, you will always have some people. They might not be your classmates, but it doesn't mean that you cannot do that you could not actually participate. Place-based does not mean that you participate only with your classmates.
Okay.
Yun ang hindi. That's the basic thing too. Place-based means that you participate with everything and everyone around you. And that is participative. How you could be creative in terms of that. For example, you're learning today, natutunan ngayon, for example, what I learned, for example, mga students. Many things, and even yung maganda about the school logo. Yung school logo. I gave it as an assignment to some of the sige, now you do it. Now what you do actually is go home now. Can you try to describe this school logo, your school logo, to the members of your family and tell me what they will say? that is already participative. They are not actually my classmates, but they are part of the place where I am. So, ganon.
Yes, yes.
Participative learning is not really choosing who you are with, categorizing them. It is actually the whole of them. The whole of them. Yun yung participative. Yes.
Thank you, Father.
Kung babalik tayo sa edtech, one thing that, yung ano man, dagan sa one, gusto ko kasi I learned much Kasi I'm the only one. I'm the only one, for example, na maglalakad. And then there's this gansa, that the goose. The goose, ang lalaki, yung kanilang talagang neck, very long. Pero if I begin to approach the herd, what did that goose do? What will the goose do? Ang aan niyan talaga agad is yung kanyang neck, bababanggan yan, tapos hahabulin ka na agad na gano'n. Pero yon, what is...
So nagre-react siya.
Nagre-react. Therefore, that is already participative in terms of my presence there. So, for me, that is already actually participative too. It came not from human beings, but it came actually from the other living creatures around me. The other living creatures around.
Yes, Father.
Yes. The place where you are, enriched. And it has many things to say. You know, it can communicate many things.
Thank you, Father. I'm sure Alma Bagadi was able to pick up a lot of insight from that. Thank you. We have another question from Mr. Robert Arellano. His question is, in our digital age, how can the person still be the best communicator?
Siguro, I think, I always believe that even in the digital world, una sa lahat, kasi naman, that digital thing that you would have, even this, if this one does not have any battery anymore, this is like the best now, for example. If I do not plug it in the electricity to recharge it, wala rin ito. This one will not work.
Useless.
Actually. It's useless. Even though it's the best machine, it's actually useless. It's actually useless. Yun ang example, digital yon. So I'm still sort of the number one. I'm still number one. Nasasabi natin that the person is still number one because the person can act independently. Even robots can do the same. But even yung mga robots, they have limitations. Yung sa atin is, actually there is none. Religiously, siyempre, sinasabi na yan ng ating Catholic faith that the person, siyempre, is the most precious thing for God, mga creatures na. Kaya nga, made in the image and likeness of God. Talaga yun Hindi naman sinabing, this is made in the image and likeness of God. Sino sinabihan? Hindi ba?
That's right.
That's religiously. Although that's religiously. Pero yun, sa akin, ganun pa rin. It will depend on actually us. It will depend on us. Tapos ano pa yung isa? Another good example is if you live in the provinces, some of our students actually are from the provinces, different mountains yan. Different mountains. Walang connection ng internet. Therefore, ano yung gagawin? So what happens is, it is the person actually running to the other barrio to just buy foods. Therefore, it is still. If this one cannot buy food in a province, for example, in talagang mountain, I cannot call grab food here in the mountains. Pero I could ask someone, can you pick up for me one coconut from that tree? Pwede. Yun talaga And it's in there that we all share the dignity as human beings. Wala talagang up or low. Each one of us have different talents, different capabilities, different expertise. Different expertise talaga. And I guess in there that we come to understand that we are actually, we have to appreciate. Dito papasok yung humanism kanina. The humanism that Dr. Pilar was saying. There is much to appreciate about our being human that we do not. We seem always, our identity seem to be always, even ilik. Our image becomes that of the tools rather than we communicate our message through the tools. Our image becomes the tools. Danger, very much danger yon. Very much danger. So yun lang siguro for that question.
Yes. Thank you for reminding us, Father. You also LMS, no? Kasi tayo yung nasa sentro nun. Okay,
Yes.
Herbert Corpus says, thank you, Father. Your lecture has made me understand our learners contextually. And Alice Paz Pamplona says, thank you for that very relevant, challenging, and inspiring input. We know that you are just there to assist us in implementing the concepts you have presented. The Shepherdines are watching.
The Shepherdines.
A principal, yes, the Shepherdines. A principal from OLMS is asking a question. Oh,
yes.
Okay. Fans club me, Father. Principal of OLMS is asking, I think it's also high time to reflect. How much of the vision mission can we take home?
Actually, if the mission, actually, it should actually be all. It's not a question of how much, actually. Because the vision and mission, you cannot say, no, I will only fulfill number 1 and 2. It can't be. Kasi I always believe vision and mission are actually it's supposed to be integral. Integral yan eh. Like even our core values are actually integral. You cannot separate one. That it should be.
Yes, Father.
So, baka the question that is hard is, where can we see it applied in our homes? Pag yun ang tanong mo, I guess you can answer it. If your concept is, where could I discuss this rationally with my family members at home, baka mahirapan ka. Pero if your intention is, what is the message of this vision and mission, and how can I apply it at home? Therefore, you can actually take it home. What I was telling before in terms of questions.
Asking the right question.
Asking the right question.
Yes, Father.
Not actually getting the right answer that matters most. Asking the right, where it could be applied. That is actually the basis now. Why much people are confused now, syempre, is they tend to look really for answers. But their question is wrong, so it doesn't come. The answers doesn't come.
Yes. Especially in this time, no, Father, with the new normal. Our instinct is to go back to the questions we normally ask, but the conditions are different now.
Yes. Even in that, are there questions?
Just a few more comments, Father. Sige, I'll just run through them quickly. So, Fedelin Bueno has a comment saying that I believe that place-based education helps students learn to take care of the world by understanding where they live and taking action in their own backyards and communities.
Thank you. Nice. That is very true. Very true.
Nice. And then Alfred says, thank you, Father Norman. Can you also give us helpful tips on bringing our parents into this kind of paradigm? We continue to thrive with the use of LMS at this time, and we recognize that we still have parents who are not open with it yet. And then I'll just go through the others very quickly. Belindo Aguilar says, is it correct to say that PBE shifts the education process from the school to the family or maybe to the home? If yes, then there is a big challenge to help parents understand this shift so that they can actively assume their role. And then last two comments. Neil Santa Ana says, the diagram on Christ's way, truth, life, translated to will, mind, and heart, translated to formation, information, and social relation is very rich. And finally, Sister Welinda Balasbas says, thank you, Father Norman. We hope to be good educators and communicators as well. More power to you from Las Piñas. Okay, Father, so maybe we have time to just go back to those two questions. Yeah, so helpful tips on bringing our parents into this kind of paradigm.
Related yata yung second question din about yung shift
the education from school to the family.
It should actually not be a shift. It should actually be like hindi naman shift. Yung shift kasi talaga ililipat mo doon eh. It's not that eh. Kasi you need both. You need
more of a partnership, Father.
Complementarity, yes, partnership. How do we make our parents partners? Ito, yung sa akin is something that the parents do not need actually to study lang PBS. They don't. They don't, because they live at home. It's actually home, and they are actually good at it already. Maybe the problem is, do we want the parents to do PBE as we would do PBE, which is based on like ito talaga yung binigay na this one or something like that. That can also happen. If we want that, then mahihirapan yung parents kasi they will follow what you like. They will follow what you like. Pero, but if you want to explain to parents, siguro, how it can be translated into this, I guess the idea of not, a while ago, I described translation and transformation. The danger with teachers about PBE is actually translation. Yung not, what I know, I will only translate to the parents and tell them this is the one that is right. That is actually translation. What I know lang, ito lang. Yes. And transformation is, ang dapat ituro sa parents is not what I know, but what will what I know that you now know will do to you. Medyo mahirap na concept intindihin. Pero in a sense, sa akin is, place-based education is based on cognitive learning, imagination, drama, posters, and all. The parents actually can do it in many ways kasi they could be the one to assess, okay anak, can you do a drawing of this, but how would you draw your family now? Things like that. At tapos pa-drawing mo naman the other child, okay, how would you draw minsan magkaiba yun eh. And then the parents could guide them already too in that. So it's complementary to what the teacher would actually teach. They should not actually go. The problem is, even in our school here before, the problem is our professors used before this kind of LMS, as the other person used that other kind of element, and they use it because they use it.
Magkaiba, Father?
Magkaiba. Hindi, kasi here for us, in-encourage ko muna for the first semester, use whatever you like. Second semester, we will shift to what the students. Parang trial and parang adaptive, flexible.
Yes,
but the thing that came in was the professor was using that one. The students never really used before. He presumed that the students know it already, so he used it. I think for the teachers now, LMS is not actually that bad. If you actually, part of your lessons will actually teaching the students patiently how to use the LMS.
Yes, po.
I think that is part of the lessons. And in terms of the teachers naman, as a parents naman, actually, I always believe that even the parents should be taught how to use the LMS by their teachers, yung teachers ng anak nila, so they could guide them better. But in terms of assessment, I guess this is where the parents could actually come in. In terms of the output of the child, this is the lesson about gardening, okay, mga ganun ba? Or about the physics question. The parents could actually imaginatively encourage their child, sige, paano mo i-drawing yung lesson na to? Yun. In terms of that, what they see around, what do you see around you?
Without doing it for them.
Yes,
without actually doing it for them.
Of course. And then remember yung story nung apo ko, yung tinuruan ko ng beep, the small jeep is running down. Sabi ko lang sa kanya, okay, can you act this one out? Then she did it. Pero sabi niya after, no, that is not right. Kulang. Then he said, meron beep eh. So nagkagan ako, beep. Ang galing eh, oh.
Galing
even
sa
that. Galing sa kanya yun eh. And that is actually place-based. It's the initiative of the learner to actually demonstrate what he has learned. Do not tell the learner, can you actually do a square? Hindi na yun eh. You can tell the child, okay, what in our house represents a square? Yung ganun ba? Not square yan. What in our house, then where is the square used? Things like that in terms of this. So place-based learning for the parents should actually not be hard because they are doing it already, how to teach some of their children. Ang problema rin talaga, I think, it's not the place-based that they will have a problem on. It's actually on the learning management system that we currently use, that we have not taught our parents how to use.
The technical side.
Yes. Yes, I think that should go side by side too.
That's right. That's right. It will also put the parents in a more comfortable state of mind, so that they won't feel that it's such a strange mode of learning. You know, it's so different. This is not how we learned when we were younger. So, parang unfamiliar territory sa kanila ito, no, Father?
And this here, even in that regards to that, siguro, what I always like, kanina kasi when I was speaking with our registrar, she was telling me about her son. Kasi yung grade 1 yan, grade 1. Online, talagang computer, Zoom, talagang sila, Zoom. Pero the problem is, yung span of attention of a grade 1, talagang, kasi the teachers speak and speak. Yung mga, the hands of the child, maggalaw yan 1-year-old So, pindot siya ng pindot. Ang problema, when he does that pindot ng pindot, she was on the chat box pala. So, every pindot, napapadala doon sa chat box. So, nag-complain yung teacher, Ma'am, we have to talk about your son. Because always in the chat, may mga ganun So, again, the missing point there was, and then the mom explained, it's because my child is like this. Yun talagang mapobore yan Yun ba? And I guess even in that mother, for example, registered mother, has taught something to the teacher. Ibang even yung attitude of children like that, na may mga ganon. How does the teacher address that?
Right. And most especially, Father, because we don't see the children anymore, right? Unlike nung dati, we can see them right in front of us. And we are able to correct, their behavior and guide them. But now it's really the parents who see that. We don't see it anymore.
Yes, in all that. And I think that's very, very important.
Father, we have one more comment from Mr. Mike Veneracion. He says, we have become hostages of convention, technology, and of our need to control learning. So parang operative word doon is control, no? Thank you, Father Norman, for showing us a way out to succeed during these trying times.
Ganda naman. Kay Monsi, kay Monsi. I like the word convention, and I also like the word hostage. Actually, we are already
hostage. Po tayo.
Ito kayong hostage, that we should free ourselves, allow ourselves, hindi naman to free ourselves, pero to see what would help us grow more, to remain being hostage, or because we have the key anyway, we have the key. And I think that is most important in all that.
Yes, Father. Okay, so that's about all the time we have for the Q&A portion. So thank you very much again, Father Pena.
Thank you very much.
I'm sure our audience members have many takeaways from your session this afternoon. At a time when we might feel limited and boxed with our screens, we really must not forget the expansive world that is outside our gadgets, the real world, a dynamic LMS that we can all enjoy and maximize to make learning become more authentic, more meaningful, and more real. So, any final message for our audience members, Father Pena?
Siguro for now, the first thing is, one I highlighted already, you as parents, as teachers, as administrators, even as students, we are the best LMS system. And that could ever be. It will always depend on us and how we train our students to recognize, appreciate, and respect that reality. Talagang yun pa rin naman that the best. The second one too is the place is here for us.
Yes.
Not only to control, not only to be a hostage of, but to learn from. The place is here. It has much to offer us. The only thing we need to do really is to open our hearts and our minds to it. Third thing siguro is, it's place-based learning is not created to create a conflict between what is technological. The technological will always be here as part of our human history, as part of communication. Hindi yan siya dapat, it should never be seen as a conflict, but as complementary to what we have always done in place-based education. They are there to better it. At times, it abuses its power, pero at times, we do too abuse our power. Kaya pareho rin talaga So,
yes,
always look at the complementariness of what is there, the means of communication, the instruments, and also the conventionals that will always free us, according to Monsignor Mike, in all our understanding in education. So yun talaga. So I wish everyone well in their schools during this COVID, and thank you rin sa'yo, Christine, for facilitating, and to CEAP, of course, for this opportunity.
So thank you very much, Father Pena. And let us all take our learning and insights home to our schools. So just some announcements before we say goodbye. First, we'd like to invite audience members to fill out the evaluation form posted on the Facebook link and YouTube caption. The link to the evaluation form will go live right after this session ends until only 7 p.m. tonight. So please make sure you submit your evaluation. Also, a gentle reminder that you will need to submit an evaluation for at least one session per day, and the certificates shall be issued for the whole Congress and not per session. So again, remember to submit your evaluation, especially if this is the only session you're attending today. Then tomorrow, you will need to submit at least one more session evaluation, plus the overall or general evaluation for the whole Congress. The link to the evaluation for each session will go live immediately after the session and will stay open until 7 p.m. Meanwhile, the link to the general evaluation will go live on September 25 at the end of the Congress and will remain open until 7 p.m. And secondly, regarding session 3 on learner development, which will immediately follow this one at 3:10 p.m., our speaker, Dr. Patricia Bilicuanan, will be talking about educating the whole person. For those who wish to join the next session, please transfer to the live link on our Facebook page, since the sessions are broadcast separately. So we hope to see you there. And with that, we now bring session 2 to a close. Thank you once again, Father Pena, and thank you everybody
very much, Christine,
for attending.
Thank you.
God bless and take care.
Thank you.